he said he might be late.
And I gotta leave early.
Yeah. You have your marching orders.
Are you gonna be here for the vote after the executive session?
If it's done before 6.
If it's done before 6,
Well, we're in trouble because if Phil's not here and you're not here, we don't have enough.
Yeah, we have a problem with that. We may have to.
better make it happen.
Oh, boy.
He's here. He dropped off his stuff and he's somewhere in the building.
Anything can go wrong, it will go wrong.
Well,
We can make it happen.
well, I was gonna say,
And no matter how many times you practice and get everything set up, there's bound to be something will glitch.
executive session.
We were in Idaho, we were driving through town.
We may have to turn it.
Don't we have to have 3 council members to have a quorum?
Huh?
Yes, we have to
We'll
have
only
that.
have 2.
And so I walked up to his Japanese car.
No, we'll have 2.
No, you'll
No,
have
it's
3.
small. We have to
Yeah.
have three.
And totally.
Yeah, I've seen that. My mom's from Newfoundland, Canada, and they have moose everywhere on the island. I saw that up there growing up.
No, there's no
Been
super
stationed in Alaska, saw it there, I saw
While
it.
you're confirmed,
Because the
everything's.
snow gets so high up there, I saw a moose on a roof of a home.
Oh, yeah.
So,
You can just write up a really nice, she done great, because you won't do my evaluation either.
From the chair to argue with Pastor, and I could say, and she was upset because
I won't be helping.
She said, aren't you afraid? And I said, no, whatever comes out here and bites me, but I'm gonna
How's
get
your
it.
wife?
You want to get shot?
Pretty good.
Are you sure you
Considering.
want to do that?
She decided.
and then our quarter horse, the base had, its mascot was this big old bull moose, and he liked to hang around the base stables. Well, him and our quarter horse would play.
Good.
Up and pacing up and down the fence line and everything. We'd go riding and be from like me to you, go near the moose, and they would, hey, how you doing? And keep
Everything's
going.
getting better in the
And
county.
people would
The
freak
only
out.
bad thing
Your
is
horse, the moose.
The death rate's going up by 3.
Well, my wife's.
Yeah,
The numbers all went down, but the
Yeah.
death rate went up by 3.
yeah, and I
And it's
remember.
old farts like me and my wife.
Yeah,
And said,
Yeah.
what part of Mexico are you from?
hello, Mayor.
Hey, what's going on? Thanks for making.
Same old stuff.
And she looked at him, she says, well,
Phil's gonna be a little bit
Germany are
late.
you from? And he says, I'm not from Germany. And she
He's
says,
gonna be late, you're gonna be early?
from Mexico.
Sorry.
Man, totally.
We'll make it
I appreciate
happen.
you doing this, but like I said, family comes
I don't have
first.
those problems.
I'm first generation on my mom's side. My mom immigrated in.
Grew up on an Indian reservation.
Oh, yeah.
All kinds of dumb questions.
Oh yeah, don't trust me.
How much Indian are you? I don't know if I kept my finger, I wouldn't be Indian anymore. It's about 90% of the Indians in the country.
Oh, when Christopher started school out at the Citadel, because they taking cadets from all around the world. Well, there was a group of cadets that came up from Puerto Rico, and they made a comment about him. They saw his name tag, made a comment about him being a white, and so Christopher turned around and responded to them in Spanish, and they were
They
like,
got Paul
"Whoa!"
working on the
So
door
he
out
became
there.
one of
Door
the
handle
boys then.
fell
So
off.
they invited him over.
goodness.
It's like, yeah, he's a quarter Mexican there. He gets that from his dad.
That don't do me any good. I forgot all my Spanish.
Well, he's, we found out he's being invested into the most prestigious honor society for all American colleges, Sigma Delta Pi, for his academic excellence in Spanish. That's his minor that he's wrapping up now, so he'll graduate with 2 degrees, one in intelligence and counterterrorism and the other one in Spanish.
What could be worse, when I first met my wife's daughter, she told me, you're old and stupid. And I said, well, you're 50%. And she said, you have a degree? And I said, yes, I have 3 degrees. Which one do you want to talk about? Then she didn't want to talk about it.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I got 3 myself. Teaching,
We all learn from our mistakes, hopefully.
Hopefully.
teaching,
Never make the
yes.
same mistake over and over.
Good help is hard to find.
Why are you?
You talking about Paul?
Why are you in such a rush?
Why am I in such a rush?
Yeah,
Because I'm a busy person, sir.
we
Well, right
already
now
know
they're trying to put the
that.
door knob back on
Yeah.
because then the screw fell. They can't find it.
Oh, no.
I dropped the
Yeah.
screw and it went underneath the drain.
Oh, no. So you guys
I can't
gonna,
move the drain duct because it's all soldered together.
so they're gonna set a cop out there then once we close up shop tonight?
It's operational, it just doesn't have a doorknob on it.
Ah, okay. I'm just thinking about when it comes time to lock up the building.
Paul,
I like
how
that
are you?
vest.
I've had an interesting evening already. walked up, grabbed
Look
the
at
There he is, he made it to Houston.
I had to go to the bathroom.
You got 3 minutes, because apparently Todd has to be out of here by 6. There's nothing right here.
Agreed.
I walk up, grab the doorknob, and it comes off in my hand.
Oh, sure. Oh,
You broke it. I got it. That's why you broke it.
I was trying to fix
You
it.
don't know your own strength.
No, it didn't take any strength. The door didn't. It just said no.
Uncle.
We've got schedule piling on top of schedule. So
We have a short agenda, that's good.
Yeah, no, this is, we need time. So we have we have the Poppy Festival, or the
Oh,
Poppy
those things,
Poster
yes, yeah.
Awards on Saturday.
Okay.
And we didn't correlate our calendars, my wife and I. And she scheduled us for a 5K that morning.
Oh, good. Well, it doesn't conflict with the Puppy Festival. You'll be all right.
No, I'm just going to be maybe limping when I get there.
Yeah.
You want to borrow one of my canes?
Yeah, probably.
I read where Honda's doing the same thing.
On the kiosk?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was on the front page of the paper.
Yeah.
I told my wife when I read it, I said, it's gonna be on
Yeah,
our
Christopher
agenda."
flies in this Friday night. And
he's
so
already
he
said
flies
he's
in
going
Friday
on.
night and doing all the stuff we need to wrap up.
He didn't see any of this stuff going on. So. That's good.
Is it this one or that one?
That
I
one?
walked up and
Yeah, the
grabbed
whole
the front
here.
doorknob and the whole knob just came off in my
Duct
hand.
tape.
So my youngest daughter and I started
Our
watching
stuff.
Spider-Man last night, and in one of the versions, when he gets his powers, he's too strong. He's pulling everything.
Yes, Paul.
I don't have time though.
What's that?
They found
That's the right
Were
screw.
you bit by a spider, a radioactive spider by any chance?
This is the right screw, so keep
Where
it
did you
for
find it? It
tomorrow.
was on the phone? That's the screw that goes in the bottom of the neck of the doorknob. So the doorknob. Well, you're gonna have to work on it a little harder because the screws that go in the door are brass. And a lot of them stripped out while I was turning it in, so it's only halfway in.
Uh-oh.
So there's more work to be done.
True Value opens up at 8 o'clock tomorrow.
Thanks for
And we have brass screws.
Hello, do not buy brass screws.
Cindy said it can work.
But we have screws.
You got all kinds of screws.
Aisle 12.
Peruse the screw aisle.
Quick. Quick. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Did she say whether we need her here or not?
I know you had some questions on
It's
this.
good to see you made it back from Houston safely.
I just drove out.
Well, I was telling him, I'm like, Phil said he might be a little late.
Right,
He's
so I'll
coming from
post
Houston.
the
You're
report.
like, what?
for that. No, we got plenty of time to talk about it.
I'm not gonna ask him all. I'm okay with it.
Oh, my.
And I thought I wrote down, sticking out from the pasture, your dog is here to, your dog is here to do this. He's here to do the professional, Friends of Christ Church.
So this is the most recent art
Sitting on
drawing
my
that
desk on
Christopher
my
had to do for his art
Post-it note
class.
that I wrote. Very good.
Nice proportions and,
Yeah, he gets that from Joe, that's not from me.
you know, he's got it, whichever.
Hey,
Yeah, I'm gonna move this to you.
I'm not
Administrator report until afterwards.
I'm not saying, yeah, that, I don't have the patience for drawing.
All right, you just tell me when you're ready.
Okay.
All right, we're going to call this meeting to order at 5:01. Let's start with the roll call.
Sheena Martinez, District 1.
Paul Carey from District 2.
Philip King, District 3. Todd Sherhart, District 4.
Herb Dyer, District 5.
And Darren Schroeder, Mayor. All right, please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
remain standing for the invocation. We have Pastor Deardroff from Friends of Christ Church.
Father, leadership comes from you. The Bible says without leaders we perish. And so right now I would call on you to witness our leadership, that you would raise us up to walk in the way that you would want us to walk, to talk in the way that you want us to talk, and that you would bless the leadership of this town, of this county, of this state, and of this country. We're in a position where we really need your help. So we ask your wisdom, your guidance, your presence. You sent your presence before the Israelites. We ask that you would send your presence before us. We thank you, Father, for this council meeting, and for all who are present, everything that will be done in your name. Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next item is citizens' comments. Mr. Lee? Hey, we haven't seen you in a while.
My name is Bob Lee. I live at 1314 Gentiles. I saw on the agenda something about a harebrained idea. I think that was the way it was labeled in the backup sheet about City Hall and the library. Let's speak to that briefly. Usually this has come up a number of times in the past. Usually a developer with a slick story that wants City Hall for some financial reason, and so they make some kind of offer to the city in order to gain control of that in exchange for something. However, this is one of the few buildings citizens and visitors can visit and conduct business in. It also brings people to the core of Castroville, the very core your group is now trying to develop down here. And so if you want to get all those new people that are moving to Castroville to come to town, give them something to come to in order to conduct city business. So I think this is a key piece. We need to keep the city hall down here. Otherwise, people that come here will not be immersed in the history of Castroville. They'll just be a number on a mailbox somewhere on the other side of town. They'd never come see us. Does it need upgrades, City Hall? Absolutely, but it would need upgrades regardless of who's housed in this building. The upstairs is a historic treasure. I hope you've all been up there to see it. There's a half a basketball court on the floor. I hope it never goes away. So whatever happens up there in the future, that court is repainted because it's part of the history of this place, and it's really neat. Would it need an elevator? Regardless of who uses the upstairs, you'd have to have an elevator. There's no doubt about it. But there's a lot of options with that. Some more expensive than others. Space, the only thing the City Hall might need more space for right now is maybe a bigger council chamber. There's plenty of room in the back of this building to put an annex on. Matter of fact, you could do that and then be there while you renovated this building. The library does need more space, and I've mentioned this a dozen times. To the west side of that building, there is at least 20 feet. You could continue that roof line and add to the library, and that would be the most inexpensive option to give them more space. Libraries need open space in order to observe, unless you want to staff at 20 people, one in this room, one in that room, one in the room on the other side, and this building is not built in such a way to give you that kind of open space for a library. Anyway, for the money, I think adding to that building would work well for us, and there's plenty of room in the back for parking for a library, but not for a city hall purpose. This building has a long history with the city as a city hall. I hope you plan now for how this building can be kept in service as a benefit to the city and a reflection of Castroville's history for at least 20 more years. That's where I put my thing. If you need additional space in the future with the other city of Castroville that's going to be east of here, put an annex out there somewhere. Okay, you could do that. You could have a police, you could have a utility thing, you could have a pay window, whatever else on the east side of town, but maintain this facility. The kiosk, also on the agenda tonight, or as I say, an unneeded solution in search of a non-existent problem. We have absolutely no need for a kiosk for people to have another way to pay bills or to do other financial transactions with the city. Are people clamoring for a kiosk to drive up and pay? I've never heard or seen anything to back that up. I never have. People can now pay in City Hall, drop box on the front door, drop box on the side. They can mail it in or they can do it online. I mean, there's 4 ways right there. I'd also be very wary of buying into any electronic hardware that is company specific and uses proprietary software. It doesn't take much for it to be non-supportable in the future, and be sure there will always be upgrades and maintenance that needs to be done. And where's the maintenance coming from? Dallas? And so I'm just saying you can color that dollar signs.
Respectfully, Mr. Lee, let's wrap it up, please.
I wish I had a presentation on how I can make the future of the city look. Then I can speak with unlimited time. Thank you.
Please do send it to us, though. All right, do we have anybody else?
Arnie DeLacy, 109 River Bluff. Just two quick reminders. Saturday at 11 o'clock down at Magnolia Filling Station, the CADC will be presenting, hopefully the mayor will be presenting, the winners of the 6th annual Poppy Poster Contest, of which you guys will end up getting copies framed and so forth of that as well. And then Thursday night this week is the History Happy Hour at the Landmark, and we have a Texas Ranger, this kind, not this kind, will be the presentation talking about the history of the Texas Rangers in and around the Medina County area, and that starts at 6:15. People wander in. The program will be about 6:30 or so. So if you're interested, food and drinks and so forth are all involved. Hope to see you there. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks, sir.
6:15.
And that is on the chamber calendar, correct? Pretty sure that it is.
I thank you. Yes, I know it is.
St. Louis Society Walk Game Dinner is Saturday too.
What's that?
St. Louis Society Walk Game Dinner.
Oh, nice. Hey, Arnie, was there something else about a wild game dinner that night, too?
That's on what, the 12th?
Saturday.
Also, yeah, St. Louis Society Wild Game Dinner.
Yeah, this Saturday.
Saturday, yes.
Thanks.
Probably didn't get up on microphone with this. I'm getting too old for remembering.
All right, we have anybody else? All right, next item is consent agenda. This is minutes from February 15th, 2022 Town Hall meeting, and minutes from February 22nd, 2022 regular called council meeting. Do I have a motion?
I move we accept the minutes as written.
I second.
Great, any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Okay, we are going to rearrange just a little bit. We're going to move item number 7 and 8, swap those around. So we're actually going to go into executive session right now. The City Council will meet in closed session under provisions of the Texas Government Code, Section 551.071, entitled Consultation with Attorney, and to receive legal advice regarding a matter in which the duty of the attorney to the governmental body under the Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct of the State Bar of Texas clearly conflicts with Chapter 551 of the Government Code and Government Code Section 551.074, entitled Personnel Matters. The three items here are to deliberate the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, or dismissal of a public officer or employee, Brian Jackson, Police Chief. To deliberate the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, or dismissal of a public officer or employee, Deborah Howe, City Secretary. To deliberate the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, or dismissal of a public officer or employee, Scott Dixon, City Administrator. We're going to go into executive session at 5:11.
Live stream will stay on. Trevor, where's that screw? Can you fix it? Nope. Where's your tape in case we can't? Back here? Okay. Well, you still got some on there. I know, but we got to take it off.
You want to work on it, or you want me to?
Let's try.
Okay, prepare it.
Let's trade these three students that are going out there.
I saw your call and your text. Yeah. But neither was concerned. That's okay. Yeah, thanks. I tried
patient who's ever been here, that thing, you know, have a carbon there, and this one, you think, this is the way I would use it.
Mr. Booth called, wanting to know some information. He didn't say how he's connected or if he's connected to the Booths. All I know.
Where I grew up down there was several Booth families.
I grew up in South San Antonio, right across the street from a Booth family. So. good guy to call. It's good on the house. Put it back like it was. You know, this is the guy that put everything back in all the Wilsons. No, they're just people from Boston. He's got it whole inside of that house after all the money the Boston gold.
The guy whose house is the longest serving, now retired Chief Justice of the Texas Supreme Court. He's a nice guy. Very easy to work with. But you know everything about everything on cell phones. What is that symbol, since I noticed it, it's white, which I probably touched because I don't remember it ever being white. It's like a lock with a circle around it.
It just means that it's only going to stay on the portrait, it's not going to go on execute.
Okay.
There's a person also that.
I still wish I had my battery bag phone. Thank you, Robert. I'm so happy with you. Help the old folks. We have that backyard concert, and he's in the backyard over there. He's just like, I know you love it. You said, whatever you want to do is fine. You know, this happens, let me know. I won't be there this year. I'll be gone. Asked him if he'd ridden twice in the Tour de Castroville. And like, I won't be there this year because I've got two speaking engagements out of state that weekend. So just, you know, have fun.
Whatever, yeah. He's really nice.
His wife has a lot of maintenance, and that's what we do this year. Scott doesn't talk about that one or two of his stories before, and 3 o'clock on that.
Just because neighbors.
Usually back to back, so that just didn't. Probably talking about it. I let them do the program, the second meeting, Friday.
It's probably insane.
Probably they'll talk about how they'll work out the streets and sidewalks.
And we talked a lot about that to Josh, and Josh was there last night.
Josh was at a coffee shop this morning. He didn't go real regular. Shocked at me.
dog in the chase. He was one of the buddies got knocked off a bike and was in the hospital for 3 days because of the dog system. What are you gonna do to keep the dogs off the road? Well, we tell people what's happening, we got a constable drive down the help people with the dogs and the young man. I can't.
You're wrong.
And it's not in our county, it's in the next county. But I get, usually I have an asking this year, you to get our constable, anytime you see constable on the side, and they'll know whether it's from, you know, A or B, so to speak, so that they teach. We all know that the last meeting, you're taking it on next year, so.
Right. No, I just got in something else from Devon's, but morning emails and stuff. We'll find somebody. Collins district. They don't have anybody out there to step up, and they're not even from Rhineville, so there's that.
That's all right. No, I know part of what I already said, so we can just look inside the but they won't come in that thing.
Oh, this one. Oh, maybe if Alsatian also gets built over there someplace, those people. In the city.
Put in the parking lot, it's not far. We can go visitors there with have vehicles
But they
instead of
would come
people.
in. That's what they did, that's at landmarks.
Oh, yeah. We've gone round and around with that.
So,
We're good meeting.
yeah. Yeah. If you could put it as 5 on 10, and just drive through and stop.
I'm gonna make a suggestion to Devin. And I guess the question, it's on the borderline between TxDOT and city property, there's a police ash tree that grows back over in the corners. And it's female with seed and they're starting to be little police ash.
Where?
Kind of up. In, right where you drop off into the river.
Oh, yeah.
And then you get to leave the road.
To delete all that stuff.
Well,
But we
yeah.
can't until it's buried or keep it on
But
top
that
of-
one, they're nothing but thorns,
on the road.
you know. It's, whether it's one tree or several little ones, it's probably about that big at the base and it's starting to bloom and everything.
part of the pre-delivery.
Actually, put that where you do the architecture.
Here's some big molly holes and down into the rock, and then put the fence attached to it and walk away. But we need to have a bridge across from that side right where it drops off to this side where the mud is still there. Citation. I recognize you. Mike King. Nice to meet you. No relation to Phil King? No. Okay. I know me about. Well, actually. Mike King? Yeah. Okay. 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 All right. But I'm also curious as to whether your badge is your shows up. He's got the shows up. Yeah. He's not here. I'm surprised. If he would, normally he's here well in advance. He was late last night. That's why I'm curious. I'm Frank David Gonzalez, the chief of police at Leon Valley. Okay. And he had the extended history. Oh, yeah. So I've been watching. Yes. Yeah. I do remember. Sorry. And so I'm watching him. Right. To see wherever I wind up, I'm going to have to run into this guy. So right. I want to see how he's able. David does a big job of handling his shenanigans. His predecessor did not. And I think they're going to get hit in a lawsuit over that. We've been this type of issue in the past. It's the same rule as you do with everybody else. Be curious. Understand what your limits are. The true challenge is understanding limits of the law. Right. And they will push you in some areas where it's like, okay, sometimes the city hall doesn't have the proper signage to say this is an employee-only area. So they say, well, I can go into here. It's cool. It's not posted, but there's really just employees-only area. It's one of the things that after you visit last year, what I speak he's very good at agitating. He's normally bringing a whole entourage, 2 or 3 others with him. And they're filming. Right. And egging it on too. Right. If you've ever seen his YouTube stuff, he's in front of the Alamo, challenging the Alamo. I don't have enough time in my life to do that. Yeah. No. And I don't want to. Well, the good thing is, every now and then you pick a video where he actually thinks he's won the battle and they handled him perfectly. Right. And those are the ones I'm watching. That's kind of impressive. Archie, good. Archie pretty well. Surprised he did himself. But he didn't videotape it. He didn't produce the competition. So was there competition? He did. It was on I didn't see on a separate, there were 2 different videos. I remember the one I was watching. I'll be working on something else and I'm listening. I'm trying to talk and then he kind of also has his own enforcement. He was on a ride watching school buses. If they go past the school bus lights on, he follows that and he stops and he never runs the house. There's no worries. No, just the citizen person. So he would follow this car until he stops. And then he gets up there and starts. I keep worried about people who do that. I mean, they take their own risk, but there's enough people out there who, they're shooting cops, legit cops. When do they stop a citizen for doing something? That's just dumb. And what aggravates me is he takes the monitor sheet off, which is basically a police figure that the police are weird, you couldn't do something to sheet off. You're fighting on the wall. There was some other snake island, which is on Rocco's. It's kind of a play on words, I guess. He wants to be sheepdog. The sheepdogs. I don't know. So I watched one detective working at an off-duty job in St. Antonio. And he was on her and she stood there. Now they charged him with harassment. Well, harassment doesn't fit for face-to-face competition like that. It's all. It would have been. On the well, now you're talking. When you talked about the statutes of the They should have gone with disorder conduct. You know, it's not as stringent, but yet it's effective. And if you want to keep going to jail for disorder conduct, do it. You don't keep going. Yeah. This guy, Tom.
Process. This is town of Twin Valley. We have 2 dispatchers.
Dispatcher also take 911.
Process. They jammed our 911 on purpose. And most of the calls are relations. These supporters of this guy. He was in jail. Oh, he was in jail very long. So you raised money to bail. But it was scary because I understand people's right to their right to do what they're doing. I'm not arguing. It's when Matt and Pete actual real non-mental services have been risking the lives of others.
Right.
And I don't think I understand there's times when we stand up and fight for what we believe is right. And sometimes there are casualties in those wars, right? But this isn't one. Right. Especially when the person's lawful.
Right.
So,
But it's like, you know, you have freedom of speech, but you can't go to a movie theater and scream fires.
right.
You know, you cannot create a risk to the public because of your speech. Right. But I don't know, we kind of got away from that in public speech.
Oh, no, I know, no, I'm offended. No, I'm not lost.
Yeah.
I'm not lost. No, I'm offended.
Yeah.
Think about that, I mean, that's the context of attorneys and this stuff. Being a non-attorney, seeing what's happening, fast forward 100 years, just play this out, look at the prevalence of case law, and how case law is used to adjudicate cases, legal arguments. It's really, really scary, I think, because there was a burden of proof that was based on fact, and findings of fact. When we start basing it on opinion, and how people see it, which cannot be proven as fact or disproven, right? And cases start to get rewarded because of sympathy, as opposed to findings of fact. If you fast forward 100 years, it should be really terrible, right? Because there is a way how you have confidence in the social construct. You can't hold yourself accountable. Because when you hold yourself accountable, you're offended. If you're offended, well, not in court, that's a possibility. This is scary.
Well, a lot of case law, you look back and you go, wow, how did they ever have laws like that? Like slavery, you know, how did you ever make that part of our Constitution? But it corrected what worries me are these little hiccups that, you know, rise and fall with emotion. You know, BLM making their stand at this point. You know, their cases, if they're...
Those are great things, too. Because truly, it's hard to argue.
Yeah.
Black lives do matter. All lives matter.
But you can't say all lives matter, though.
Right,
You
right.
know, that's offensive. But, you know, that's the whole thing.
But then you look at their core beliefs, it's like, whoa, wait a minute.
But now go fast forward 2 years, and now suddenly they're being discredited because of the fact that these people hit on something that they not going to.
Some of them were gross.
Yes.
Maybe not all of them, a lot of people would really.
But now people are pulling their support from it, right? Because of the fact that these people that started what could have been a very legitimate organization, they did it for their own personal gain. Now it looks crooked. So, yeah.
I'm gonna go way outside there. We wrapped up the first issue that we were doing. This is, what driving is that our evaluations were on, this is normal annual evaluation, when, at the normal time frame, we did it. When Brian's first came up, ours was supposed to be the same night, we ended up delaying it to the time.
Is yours an interview, is yours just an annual review?
Yeah, just the interview. Why they listed that way with all that, is,
Yeah.
no, I don't know, that's what our attorney said. It's really just.
Well,
I told someone else, Bob was like, I don't think, right.
In case they didn't
Bob and I
pass it
said,
the
we
week
have this.
before, in case the week before they get upset with you, they've got the basic discovery.
Well, I told Bob, make me rich, that's great, I'm fine, and right now, yeah, that's okay. okay, I have a separation agreement, it's good. They aren't, I wish they would sometimes. Yeah, but great. I love Castroville. I love working here, I love being here. There's a lot of challenges. It's a very high, for such a small town, holy crap, it's a high stress. I'm not happy about it.
We have a lot of friends with them out here. You know, I live in there in Fort Canary, and we know a lot of Sherhards. I don't know anyone this year. I know Phil Sherhard and Maureen Sherhard. They went to our church. We were in church.
They're brother and sister to him.
Are they? Yeah, I know if you brought the Sherhard name, everybody knows the Sherhard, right? So, I guess we could try Sherhard Life Matter. We could just start it.
Oh, but the Hades
Nice.
are
Good to meet you. Yeah. Yeah, what is their relation to Hades? I know they had some relation to the restaurant.
They're all everything is like
Really?
this.
The Hades and the Sherhards
It's a
is
spider
Hades
web.
and Sanders. That's one group that
As long as it's not like the Hatfield and McCoys. You know?
sometimes it is. It goes too long.
Yeah, I think the only Sherhard still going to our church, I think, is Justin, the son of Maureen and Phil.
You have to really know which Sherhard line you're talking to before you talk about Sherhards, or Hades, or several other things.
Well, you know, funny thing, like I saw Justin Sunday, and I told him when we went out to Castroville this week, I noticed there's a Sherhard on the board. Is it any relation? He goes, probably. He goes, somewhere. He goes, yeah, give me a first name. I said, okay.
Not many people know how to spell it, so you know they gotta begin to each other.
And he chose not to run for reelection.
I remember Mary Louise Burrow told me in school one time, and she had a date with somebody. She told her mom she was so excited, and her mom told her, you can only have one date because he's your second cousin. So she
Didn't stop them all.
It didn't stop at all.
Who was that singer? Jerry Lewis or Jerry Lee Lewis? Married his first
His
husband.
cousin, yeah. When you look at the Tondres, my thought was 12 boys that all came from one house in here in town. And he was married to his cousin, no, to his niece. And then they had the 12 kids, and the 12 Tondre boys that spread out.
As most Sherhard in town puts it, our family tree looks like some with one crossover.
It's a different little town.
You know, you can officially say you have a screw loose.
More than one.
I might have an answer. So you're the big one.
Oh, I was told that.
That's the Georgia executive.
At the,
We applaud
Think
it.
about your dad.
It's in the thing. It's in your packet too.
Let me turn that air conditioner on, I think it's a little warm in here though, I had the heater on earlier.
No, it was amazingly cold this morning, and then when the sun come out, it sure warmed up.
Just be glad that
fast.
we don't live in Dallas this Friday. Dallas is supposed to get snow, and we're only supposed to be high of
My
45.
sister's coming back from Italy Saturday. And it's cold over there.
Our kid's flying in Friday night, so.
Deborah, just tell me when you're ready to come back. All right, we are going to reconvene an open session at 5:52. Next item is consider possible actions resulting from items posted and legally discussed in executive session. Do I have a motion on the first item?
Mr. Mayor, I motion that we accept Police Chief Brian Jackson's resignation effective today.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. On the second item,
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to authorize the city administrator to enter into a contract for interim police chief services.
I'll second that as well.
great. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. I want to be clear about this. The worst thing about this situation is that a man was killed last month, murdered in Castroville. And I think that nobody's talking about that, and that's what disturbs me the most. Regardless of who the man was or what kind of life he lived, this is a person who was probably loved by friends, by family, and to those people, I'm sorry for your loss. I'm sorry for what happened here. I am saddened, and frankly, I'm disgusted at the hatred that I've seen and heard through this process. Not by the people of Castroville, not from people that know Brian Jackson and the type of man that he is. From them, I heard encouragement and support. Mind you, not for the words that he used, nor for the hurt that was caused by the carelessness of using them, but for the man himself. Is he flawed? Yes. Is he a good man? Yes. From the people who don't live here, who haven't experienced the benefit of police working in partnership with the community under his leadership, who don't know a thing about the man they categorically condemn, I hope that you have the opportunity to experience the kind of policing that we have here, the kind of connection that we have between the community and the police, the kind of respect and truly to protect and serve. They take serve seriously. So I get it. Let me be clear. Racism, prejudice has no place in this world. It has no place in Castroville. I'm going to repeat that. Racism and prejudice has no place. Prejudice against a man or a woman, whether for their color or for their sex or for their means of employment, or any other differentiation, it's hateful and it's divisive. We are a diverse group here in Castroville. If you doubt that, go look at Houston Square, the 8 flags flying proudly there. We do embrace the Alsatian history and the heritage, but Castroville was built by women and men of difference, different colors, different languages, different heritage. What makes this city great is the melding of the differences into a common shared experience. We're a community. It's a group of people brought together by the fellowship of common attitudes and interests and goals. So I hope that this becomes a lesson to us. We need to remember that words do matter. Words have power, and we must all choose our words very carefully. Just as we choose the actions that support our fellow mankind, we need to condemn the ones that divide us, that oppress, and that subjugate. Now, the city of Castroville, we are choosing our actions. City staff is already taking on the challenge to better ourselves. We're looking at our policies to make sure that all of our personnel policies across the city, including our police, are aligned with this concept that everybody matters. We are going to implement additional training to ensure that all city employees recognize the importance of diversity and the need for diversity. We're going to talk more going forward about how we're going to react to this. We do take this seriously. We want to make sure that we can be the best of ourselves and that we represent all people equally. So Scott will talk about some additional items that staff has been going through.
Sure. So, one of the things that is of deep concern when this type of issue arises is, while, again, like you said, words themselves do not indicate discrimination, we want to make sure that our policies, our procedures, and certainly the culture and the behavior of our police department reflect the standards that we all value, which is, as you've stated, Mayor, I don't want to repeat it all, but so that will be one of the processes coming out of this. Is I've kind of shared with our police department. Sometimes you make lemonade out of lemons. This is one of those situations in a lot of respects. We know that we've received negative public scrutiny. We know that this isn't new, unfortunately, for our department. We've had other issues that have been highly visible in the media that did not show our best character and our best face for the city of Castroville. And so we are going to become better because of this, because we have to, because there's not a choice. That is the choice, is to become better because of it. And there will be a number of processes, some of which we discussed in executive session, that the city will go through. One of those is to hire an interim police chief from outside the organization to provide us some guidance, look at our best practices, or look at best practices and see which are being utilized here and which are not, and what improvements can be made. And I'm sure there will be improvements made because of this, because, again, no one's perfect, and we should all be trying to do better. So I expect that this will be a lengthy process. It won't be something that we're going to take care of in a month or 2 months or 4 months. It may take multiple years to get the training, the policies, the processes, the procedures aligned with what we feel are the best practices, and as staff, we're committed to doing that, not just for police department, but for all our departments. We want to be better, and as I think you frequently say, Mayor, we want to do good and do more good, right? We know that great sometimes is a real challenge, but we can all be just a little more good in our life, and so that's we take that on as a personal challenge, as I think each member of staff does, and the PD is no different. So we'll take this and we'll learn from it and be better.
Thank you. All right. I think that Councilman Shearhart,
May I be excused, Mr.
you
Mayor?
may be excused. Let the record reflect that Todd is taking care of his family like a diligent husband at 6 p.m. Thanks.
All right, take care.
Have a good evening.
All right, next item is the city administrator's report. We're going to go back to that. Do I have any discussion on the city administrator report?
Under the streets program, so I thought regarding Berlin Street, that we were going to ensure that it was done right and everything. So how did we, because according to this, we didn't use the right rock or something? What, because I know when they first started doing this chip seal stuff, we got the wrong rock last time. So if I'm reading this right, how did we end up having that again?
Phil, did you want to comment or not?
Yeah, I know somebody had told you they used the wrong, I don't think the rock was not hard enough. What it is, it was just crushed limestone, and typically on chip seal, you either pre-coat the limestone rock when you go down so it doesn't cause a dusting problem, or out in this area, it costs a little bit more, but a lot of people, like the county uses, and they call it a track rock, and it's the Conifer rock. And it's already
Saturated.
It's already saturated with oil.
Yep.
So it's an actually pre-coated rock. But I think the reason for the dusting is they didn't use trap rock, or they didn't use pre-coated rock. Pre-coated rock does cost more than regular rock because you're pre-coating it with oil, but it does keep the dusting down. So I guess K-Freeze did not have that in their proposal, and I kind of fault myself for not catching that when you all, when those proposals came to us and when we were talking to the contractor. But that's really is what caused. And then they put down additional material, and which you wouldn't think that's bad, except then you do have a bunch of this loose stuff at the surface. I don't know if anybody's driven down it since they brushed it. Once they brushed it, it really came out looking just like River Road. I mean, really our best example is the River Road that had the, you know, it was built, what, 2 years ago?
The county, yeah.
Before my
Yeah,
time,
well,
but I
the county
believe
put
you.
down the base, and we hired someone, Maples, to put down the,
Seal coat, the fog seal.
the chip seal. And it's, Berlin now looks almost like it, except it doesn't have its second application, on it, which is coming soon. So I think it was a little bit of a learning curve, but I think at the end of the day, it's going to be a great street. I
And
tell
then-
you what, a great basement trail on it.
And then I have some of the people in my district that live on Berlin Street are concerned about drainage, because they think it affected the drainage and how it's going to be, how not working very well by the way they did it.
Yeah, I'll just say, we looked, so, it's funny, so we had a civil engineer, who's, you know, really drainage is something that they're very proficient in, and they did look at drainage. We've dealt with, I know at least one resident that had a serious concern about ponding, but the fact of the matter is, he had a big vacant lot that is below grade, and it holds water. And to get that water out of there, that's not a part of it, that's not in the scope or part of this project. Now, drainage is a completely separate issue to the degree that people have drainage issues, throughout town. I know that establishing bar ditches is one of the things, and both establishing new ones and trying to reclaim old ones will be something that our department's looking at, and it'll be a process, and certainly that's one of the recommendations that more than likely will come out of the public discussion about this drainage plan that K-Freeze is currently undertaking. But to the degree that this road causes more drainage, I would argue that pretty strongly, because it was looked at, and certainly we don't believe that's the case, and I don't think, anyway. The frustration, though, is that we had, you have a person, our Devin Frederickson and myself, neither one of us are street experts. I built a lot of streets in my tenure, overseeing the construction of a lot of streets. I didn't personally build them, and I've used this type of rock before that we used here, and we didn't have an issue. So that was that when you saw that paragraph that I wrote, that's a little bit of my frustration coming through, that we involved our city engineer. They engineered this process, and we still ended up having some issues. But lo and behold, they're more of a civil engineer, and again, I think K-Freeze does great work. We could have used a Terracom, which is one of their subs, who really kind of specializes in soils and streets and that kind of thing. So going forward, that's what I think I said in the paragraph, that we'd probably do that. On the street project specifically, we'll probably use their sub, Terracom, to guide us through that. And one of the decisions that we've already made is we'll either use that pre-sealed rock in the future, so to cut down on dust, or trap rock. And more than likely, we'll use the trap rock, because it's local. It costs a little bit more, but if you don't put as much down, it's about evens, right? If you put the right quantity down, you're good. So.
Right, because that's why I contacted you that day when they were doing it. It's like, because I saw the dust and everything going, and we were going through the intersection there with one of the cars, and it's like,
Yeah.
Not good for the people down there.
And the thing I want to point out, Phil mentioned it, but we haven't finished that road, so we'll get a fog seal. One of the frustrating things is, I've seen some memes on it and on Facebook, but the Texas weather has just been nuts. It keeps getting down in the 30s. We keep having threats of moisture, both of which are not really good for that fog seal when it goes on. So we're trying to pick a time when that'll work, and I'm trying to hold the contractor's feet to the fire to get that done sooner than later. The problem is when there's a delay because of weather, well, what do? They move somewhere else where there isn't that delay, and then we have we have to get them back here. So I'm hoping to get that done just as soon as humanly possible, but it is a little bit of an uphill battle.
And is someone going down and making sure they uncover the manhole covers?
Yes.
Okay, because that one that was at Geneva and Berlin, it got covered,
Yes.
then they uncovered. So I was just making sure.
Yeah, so that's the type of things that K-Freeze did catch for us, and that's the punch. So we had a fairly lengthy punch list on this project that's been addressed. The final item of the punch list was cleanup and removal of the excess rock, which they've come and done, and now it wasn't part of the original scope. We had a little bit of money left over. It's about $17,000 is what it's going to cost to seal it. Again, sealing it wasn't the part of the original plan, but we've elected to spend that money since we had that money left over in the project and have it seal coated. and hopefully also people will be happier.
Okay.
I've never had so many complaints over a new road. And I want to say, did you see it before? We'll just pick another road next time. But anyway.
Well, it's a painful process, honestly, and I've been a little bit frustrated that it's going slow, but I really respect the fact that you're taking it slow, you're making mistakes. It's okay to mess up, just do it once. We learn from our mistakes, and we continue to move forward, as long as we're making forward progression. So I appreciate the work that...
Well, that's the other part of this, is we contracted this out. We didn't do this in-house. And of course, Phil knows, I've been pushing to do something in-house, and I know in-house will be a painful process, which is why we want to start on the ones we own first, do some stuff around the parks, other places that have less travel and are less in the customer eye, if you want to think of it that way. But we'll get to that later.
Okay, because I know there's other areas that people ask me, well, who's responsible for this, especially where the streets meet up with 90? Like right here behind Broadway Bank, that street right there, right where it meets 90.
Lafayette.
It's atrocious.
Yep.
When I was coming today for the meeting, this intersection right here where the Legion Hall is and everything like that, there's a big hole there. And so I call up the guys on streets, and they come and take care of it, but we've got people asking.
What I do when I see something, I send them to Scott, because
Yeah.
if Scott needs to be
Oh, yeah.
in those things, so instead of calling the streets people.
Well, they come into the store, and I just ask a question. Who is
She
it?
didn't actually
No, all I did was, who's responsible for doing the part where the streets meet up with 90? And they go, oh, that's us, and they get on, and they call it in. I didn't ask them to do it or anything, but it's like, okay. Let's see here, what else? Regarding City Hall relocation.
I'm pretty sure he did that just to mess with you. No, I'm just kidding. So I think that there's nothing that isn't worth looking at.
Right.
There's a lot of things.
I said it was a harebrained idea to
Yeah.
start with.
Oh, I know you did. I know you did.
Yeah, you
But,
Bob.
there's room upstairs. We could possibly move your office, Deborah's office, the mayor's office up there, the finance ladies up there, and open up for more growth over here type thing because I saw that regarding the one position that we're looking at for the professional services with Chamber of Commerce. I mean, that would give us swing space for a couple of bodies to go in there if need be. Pull over the admin people for Public Works or something.
Well, I
Pull
think that
Devin over here to hub out of here.
one of the things that we are looking at is going for, as the city grows, where is it going to grow the most? The first place it's going to grow is in PD, which is the most constrained, which is the most expensive to build. So we're looking at the most important ones first.
Right.
But just like Herb has a vision with the CCC, and we want to make sure that he has the ability to just talk about it, to get people thinking about it, to get your creative juices flowing. And it doesn't mean that he feels like we can do it tomorrow, although if we could, that would be great.
Yeah.
And I think it's the same thing with Scott. He's like, so what do you think about this? And if it's emphatically, no, we don't have any interest in this, then that's great, no problem. It gives him direction. I think that sometimes you just kind of,
yeah.
it's a good idea to look at.
Oh, yeah. I was just throwing it out there.
Well, and I want to speak to Bob. One of the things Bob made, I was going to ask if he was going to stick around, but then you told him to shut up and he left.
I
So
didn't tell him to shut up.
You
He
kind
said
of
to limit it to 3 minutes like he should.
He said, wrap it up.
Yes.
You said it politely, Mayor, but that's fine. That's your prerogative. That's good. And it respectfully, yes. But I wanted to kind of rebut Bob, if you were going to allow me to do so, just to because I think he had some, obviously, this is just an idea.
Yep.
It was a harebrained idea. He had his very strong opinion. But know this, I also appreciate that we need a place to bring people to. And one of the things that, Mayor, you and I have talked about that I haven't necessarily shared with the rest of the council is I really view the library as a hub of sorts, and I think it is underutilized currently. And I think there's a lot more we can do at the library to drive our customer base there, if you want to think about it that way, so that they can see the value of the library and the library can assist them. I kind of view the library as an in-person Google. If you have any questions or issues or concerns regarding the city, go to the library and get your answers resolved there. They have normal business hours, that kind of thing. We can train their staff. So with that in mind, I was never suggesting that the city vacate downtown. I would be 100% opposed to that. I was suggesting that perhaps the library would be a good spot. But he brought up an excellent point, which is this building, he's absolutely right. It's good if you have a nice open area where you can see folks. You got to be able to keep an eye on that. And I think of all the points you made, for me personally, that was one of the best points. That would be one of the best and strongest arguments about not using this building, because you do need that ability to see that. But my thought was simply, the library needs to grow. We don't necessarily need all this space. Yes, there's an opportunity, like you're saying, to bring more staff over here potentially and create a campus of sorts. There are some ADA challenges.
Oh, yeah.
We don't have access to all the funding that the libraries have. They have library facilities grants that are specific for building libraries and reconstructing. So that's part of my thought process, was there would have more ability to leverage improvement dollars into this building. But as I think when I responded to you, Herb, in that, my comment about that was, if we're going to stay here, you know, we've got issues that are showing, this building is showing its age again. We need to prioritize care of this building, or else we are not being good stewards. And that's one of the big concerns I have. And it's not, you know, again, it has nothing to do with wanting to be in a Taj Mahal or anything like that. I just want to take care of the basic needs. We have water leaks that are current. We have roof issues, and then we have issues like in the front of our building. It's embarrassing to walk into our lobby and look up and see that that ceiling has been caving in that location in the corner, and it's been that way for a long time. And we haven't fixed it. So I want to start fixing those things, and my thought was the library could fund those, because I know that we've got other goals we want to try to do, and facilities is kind of on our priority list. Even though this is really important, we need to get streets fixed. We understand that. And from the general fund standpoint, from that aspect, we have a limited number of funds to use, and we want to put those where they get the most bang. So that's streets and parks, where people are every day. Facilities, you know, again, we have a staff that we just, you know, we're okay working where we work, right? We have Public Works in a double wide, essentially double wide. Same issues, some leaking there kind of things. But my point is, it's not about trying to get a brand new facility. It's just taking care of what we have and figuring out how to pay for it. And grants, we got grants to do the windows in the past. We'll just have to, again, it was an idea, maybe it was a bad idea.
And then on the dam project, I know it's being brought up at the next city council meeting, but do we know if the bird observing platform there over the pond is going to need to be removed or relocated?
Most likely, I can't remember which pond, because one of the options is to do away with one of the two ponds. So it depends on which pond they're doing away with and where that bird observatory is.
Okay.
That was the other pond that they were talking about.
Yeah, so if it's the other pond they're getting rid of, then probably not.
Okay.
As long as, because you can go, you know, as long as visitors are outside the fence and you're not endangering them in any way, shape, or form, then yeah.
Yeah, they just step off of the bird trail.
Right.
And it's right there, so.
I think that, but I'll add that to the list to verify.
Just questions, you know.
Yeah.
I see they're making good progress with regards to the well and laying of the new pipe and everything. Let's see here. Says that Respect has completed phase 2 of the study that looks at needed water and sewer improvements. So we're progressing along then on the Alsatian Oaks very well.
Sure. I mean, I did brief y'all in executive session about what the findings of that report were.
Right.
And that has not been shared with the developers yet.
Oh, okay.
They paid for that report.
Okay.
So that meeting should be happening soon, but I don't really want to talk about that until it's
Yes, sir.
public.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
I just was in your report, so. Okay, that's all.
I was careful to word the things in my report.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
All right, that's all I got.
All right. Councilman Carey?
Nothing to add. Thank you.
Nothing to add. Thank you for the report.
I have 3 comments. First of all, with regard to the GIS portion of your report, I've got a fundamental disagreement with the way that we're proceeding. I was of the opinion from previous meetings that we were going to hire a consultant who was going to tell us how to create and operate our own in-house GIS system. But after reading your report, it appears that we're entering into a long-term, open-ended outsourcing agreement to have consultants build our GIS system on their remote servers up in Dallas and provide the city very expensive hourly assistance, both on-site and remotely, along with other very expensive services, such as printing. I don't support that approach, because it will be very, very expensive. And I believe once we start that outsourcing approach, we'll never be able to change our mind and bring it back in-house because we will have too much invested. After I read your report, it becomes clear that, yes, we own the data, there's no question about that, but we do not own all of the little peculiars that go into software systems, the applications that they write, the things they do to our data that produce reports, all those little intricacies. If we ever say to them, well, we've decided to take it back in-house, you lose all of that. And you just simply get back your data, which is totally useless because they pull all of their hooks out of it before they give it back to you. So what I'm suggesting to the city as an alternative to letting this contract that you're proposing is that we should go off and do a very inexpensive study to look at the differences between the two approaches and find out from a professional consultant, what is it going to cost us over the next 10 years if we do it the way you're suggesting by just outsourcing it? Or what is it going to cost if we pay a consultant to help us build our own system, start out small, and as the city grows, we add more to it, but we own it, we control it, everything in it is ours, so we don't ever have to pay somebody to get to our data. So that's my concern about the GIS.
Well, and I'd like to just kind of double click on that. So if, I would say in the past, there were a lot of things that were completely closed off. What's happened over the last probably 10, 15 years is a lot of the data, a lot of the programs, a lot of the data has gone to a more extensible format where you have main systems that do the configuration and then you maintain the data. So I agree with you. If we are going to lose control of any kind of useful amounts of data that we could never reclaim and reuse as it stands, then yes, I think that would be a problem. The fact is that to do something like that in-house requires expertise, it requires systems, it requires software, networking, security. There's a lot of stuff that goes into it. So if you can go with an outsourced services company that has those abilities in-house, there's a lot of times where you can hit economies of scale. For our size, if we were San Antonio size, I'd say let's do it in-house. What we were originally thinking that the GIS would cost was over $100,000. And at that, it's questionable, but it helps avoid, I mean, if you look at the impact of doing a GIS, it helps avoid, I call them backhoe locates. I hate doing backhoe locates where you find the services with a backhoe. So I think that it's an incredibly valuable service, and Scott was able to find a way to do it for something that's completely within his spending limits. But to his credit, he brings it back to us and says, okay, so we thought it was going to be this, we've worked it through, and they've looked at the options, and they found something that is actually fairly inexpensive to have something for that amount, even though the hourly services may be, sometimes it's shocking to see how much people are making nowadays, but they do.
Well, can I just interrupt? I mean,
Yep.
This is my item, but so a couple of things. We're already doing it in-house. We bought ArcGIS, I believe. We have one person who's trained on how to enter data. We will have others that are trained to enter data. What we do not have is a public-facing portal. We have reached the limits of our ability within our own staff. To increase those abilities would be way more money, because you can't hire a body for less than $40,000 a year plus benefits, right? So,
And that's just for data entry.
so, and we're talking about this is $12,000 to set up and $6,000 a year to maintain. It's cheap. It's cheap by any measure. It's definitely cheaper than anything we can do internally. We are doing what we can internally already, and the reason it's so cheap, and this is what, again, what I want to do is just, I want to let them do the $12,000 project and see if we're all happy with it, with that level, because frankly, it'd be better than anything I have right now already, because I don't have anything that puts everything in one place that is easily accessible by my staff and by the public. That's what this would offer us. So I view that as a very low-cost item, especially when I thought it was going to cost $250,000. A big reason why it doesn't cost as much is simply because we do have that ArcGIS backbone. We've already got all the data in there, and they're just going to take that and they're going to organize it and use, like you said, their magic widgets to put everything in the right place and give us a menu and be able to toggle things on and off and give us that interface, because that's what we're missing. ArcGIS has that interface, but it's not user-friendly in that respect. I mean, you have to spend hours learning how to use it.
Only concern I have about that is there's a whole lot of pages in this proposed agreement that are in capital letters and underlined about what we can't do. And I started reading through it, but I'm not a lawyer, but I kind of got the sense that once you sign, there's no getting out.
Well,
you can't turn to another company and say, we've decided to bring it in-house because this specifically prohibits you from doing that. You can't do it. So you lose. I would not be opposed to supporting this if you would correct the agreement so that we have an exit that doesn't penalize us.
Well, it says we own the data.
I know, but that's not what it says. The agreement, it says you own the data that you give them.
Right. So they're going to go get... So
I don't want to get technical, but that data that you give them, when they give it back to you, is not going to look like the data you gave them.
Right. Keep in mind, one of the things... Okay. So I've done this before. I was going to show y'all what it looks like. What I would encourage anybody listening, go to ennis.half.com. Or just try to search NSGIS and see what you pull up. There should be a half link, half an associates link. That's the map that we're trying to put together and make usable. And I don't think there's anybody having seen that map that would argue that this isn't a worthwhile endeavor for $12,000. So, and that's what we're risking, if you want to think about it that way, in the initial years, $12,000. But I think we're going to be very, very happy with it. And it's a lot less expensive than the kiosk that we're going to talk about later. So,
I'd just like to see you satisfy yourself and the lawyer that there's an exit ramp.
Right.
And if and when we ever decided that it's too expensive to do it this way, and we want to move it in-house, well, my reading of this agreement says we can't do that.
The other thing to know is that, so they're going to use some public information. They'll pull in public information, which we could probably do, I guess, if we can how to do it. So that'll probably be the type of information we'll lose. But as far as updates to the map going forward, those will be captured by us, right? And then they're communicated to them as GIS layers. And then they update the maps with those layers. So we will, in that respect, at all times have that GIS data, the collection points that we have, that we control. And we have an awful lot of it. Again, that's why it's as cheap as it is, because we've done a very good job in some respects, collecting GIS data. We've relied on past partners, engineers and others to collect it for us. What we need to do, and what I want to do going forward, is to collect it ourselves when there's a new line project. That's the one thing that we aren't doing right now that I've talked and challenged staff to do, is when you're putting a new water or sewer line or something else, to avoid those backhoe locates, let's have a GIS tool, which they make and you can purchase, and put it in the hole when you can still see the line, and say, and you can very easily document with a picture and actually say, this is what type of line it is, this is the age, if it was a repair, this is a repair that was done, and all of that gets captured and put into a GIS map, so that when you're looking at repairs, trying to do analytics, you can pull all that up. So I plan on doing this. I don't plan on coming back and asking permission. I'm just advising you. It's a $12,000 cost. But I will look at the contract, Herb, and I will send you what my notes are, so that you and I can get good on that page.
The only thing I saw in the contract that looked suspicious was there's a section in there on page 9 where it talks about user access.
Yeah, they had the wrong numbers.
Number 4, and then it's got number 6 in parentheses.
I saw the same thing.
If you fix that, I think technically, I couldn't see anything else wrong. But I didn't understand all the capitalized pages that were underlined.
Yeah.
They just looked very ominous to me.
But if I can say, to Herb's point, I think that he makes a really valid point, and we've talked about this in the past. I think that we'll get better at making sure that we have these requirements when we're looking at outsourced systems. I'm a firm believer in using outsourced systems because, as we've talked about already, the amount of expertise that you get to combine, again, we don't have the economies of scale to be able to do that ourselves, but part of that evaluation process really is, what is our exit strategy? At some point, you need to be able to exit, whether it's now or 5 years or 10 years or 50 years, but looking at that exit strategy and seeing what we will lose and putting that in as a risk analysis. I think it's just, at a certain point, it becomes rote, and we know that we're all on the same page, and we know what steps are going through, and the more we do this, the more we can empower Scott to make decisions based on standards that we've set, instead of having to go back and pick each one apart every single time.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to say, we, when we bought the GIS system 4 or 5 years ago, we also started training one of the individuals on staff to operate it. That individual got hired by Honda. And that will continue to happen if we do it in-house. We will train somebody and they'll get a better job somewhere else. I am getting ready to go to the Blucher Institute at A&M Corpus Christi this weekend, and I'm very familiar with that school, and it's the only 4-year surveying and GIS, geomatics and GIS school in Texas. And about 2/3 of their student body in that department is in GIS training, and the reason is that those people are going to make a real good living. The fact that we're getting this service for $12,000 plus $6,000 a year is remarkable, actually.
Well, we'll see what we get when we pay that.
But
I think we're going to get something very good.
I also know the people at HAF. I deal with their surveyors a lot. Some very good friends of mine are at that company. They're not going anywhere. They will be around forever unless somebody buys them, in which case GIS is not going anywhere. Nobody in this world can live without GIS right now. You pick up your phone, you open Google Earth, Google Maps, you're looking at a GIS system. You go to the appraisal district, you're looking at a GIS system. We're not going to run out of providers or a company that wants to provide this for us in the future. So I think we're safe.
I totally agree with everything except for one thing.
Okay.
What was the statement? It's better to train people and leave than not train them and they stay.
I don't think I said that. But okay.
On page 9, just below what Herb was referring to, they're saying they will provide 20 hours of support annually through email, phone, and video conference. We can burn that up real quick, especially the first 90 days of having the system online.
Well, I think that we don't.
Yeah, potentially.
I'm just saying, they're limiting us to 20 hours a year.
Yeah, potentially. I would just tell you, in my experience, having dealt with, once you have the program set up, it isn't that much, because it just isn't. What we generally, where we usually use our time is in updating the maps, and so that's usually where you use your money. It's not necessarily in technical issues, because it is a web-based system. You're not dealing with data entry and that kind of stuff, because when we do our data collection, the way this works, we just send it to them. So it's not like the people on our end are trying to update the map or make changes and they got to call someone, hey, how do I do that? That's not happening. We've outsourced that. They're doing all that.
Yeah.
The only interaction between the city and them, once this thing is set up, even from day one, is really once I'm logging in. And they're going to offer some training, but it is that's why I wanted to bring it up and show everybody.
Yeah.
It's very user-friendly.
I understand that.
One is why I like this.
I understand that. However,
Yes.
it's hiding on the air of it could happen. We lose power. We tend to do that a lot down here. Our internet connections aren't that great. So if someone's trying to log in and they're not connecting, let me call the thing and see if their system's down. That kind of stuff. I'm just saying, if we could up that to more hours, it would be better to overestimate than underestimate and us have to pay out
It's always a good
ridiculous.
negotiation tactic to ask for more than what they offer. So.
Your point about the internet too, it's very important. Everybody should understand. If we put a distributed GIS system in the city, the bandwidth that we're paying for right now probably isn't going to be enough. We're probably going to have to add some.
A distributed GIS system?
Yeah,
No,
because
that's
you're
why you
not,
use a host.
everything you're bringing down here from the servers is coming down
Off the
as
cloud.
video, large files.
It's the same thing as looking at Bearcat.
I say,
Or
pull up,
Medina Cat.
pull up NSGIS right now. It's the exact same thing. You'd be able to pull it up with no problem.
We don't use it, yeah.
I had two other comments on other
Please.
subjects. On the harebrained comment,
Not done flogging me yet. Got it.
I'm not flogging, I just want to make this statement. 'Cause my personal belief is that the citizens of this town will never agree to move the city hall out of this building. And I just think we should not waste any time thinking about doing that. I have one other comment on Alsatian Oaks, more of a question. I know everybody's been working very hard, but we haven't been able to talk to Russell lately because he's moving. But is there anything that the city council needs to be concerned about?
No.
I know you're trying to set up a meeting in the next 2 weeks to kind of get everything up to date, but I just don't want to see any surprises.
There's nothing publicly that you need to be concerned about.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have for this moment. Thank you very much.
I want to say also on the City Hall relocation, is it, oh, sorry, on the harebrained idea.
I need a marker.
Yeah, next time, can we redo this agenda item
Office
as
of
harebrained
Harebrained
idea?
Ideas.
Right.
Got it.
So, again, I'm not saying that we should move City Hall. I love City Hall here. I think that what Scott is looking at is using the highest and best use of every building, maintaining, he said something very specific. We are stewards of this building. And for him to look at how can we better leverage additional money that's available through something with the library, doesn't have to be that specific thing, but I think it's healthy to look at different options. You look at all the options, you make the decisions very, 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 very slowly and openly, and so I appreciate the fact that you're looking out for the things that we, that are under our care and our responsibility. And I don't want to, I think that everything else is really good. This is a very conversation-driving report, so thank you. Thank you for the thoroughness of this. I appreciate the thing that, we'll have to get you another time, okay? Promise. No, I appreciate the conversation on this. It's obvious that you're doing a great job on providing this kind of information with all the conversation on it.
Are there any other questions on the report? Are we closing this item? Yes. I just want to mention my self-evaluation was added later. Deborah sent you a text. Since you will not view my evaluation tonight, when you're between now and the next meeting on the 22nd, one of the things on there is a list of, I think, 81 items. There have been 2 added. It's really supposed to be 83. Those are just the items I'm kind of aware of. I'm sure there's some other items that need to be on that list. One of them is city limit markers that I know Phil mentioned that's not on that list, so I need to add that. But there's just a lot. We are doing a lot. And I'm constantly looking for ways, and some of these are expressed in this report, to maximize and leverage the personnel that we have. Because they're, as I've expressed to them, no one believes you until it happens. But the fact of the matter is we're all going to get even busier than we are today. And we aren't going to have more resources. And so how do we get around that? And one way is to better collaborate with one another. And you can do that by changing how you interact with one another, taking on new roles and being willing to share and not be in your sandbox as much. But another is to leverage the software that we have. So we're looking at leveraging teams to do project management and that kind of thing. And another is technology, and look for ways you can leverage technology without having to add an individual. And that's really what when you look at these things, there's a common theme. And the theme is, how can we do more with less in the future? And so that's we'll talk about the kiosks and other stuff. But that's really where this is born out of. It's not because people are clamoring for it. It's because I want to retain the good people we have, and I think we will lose people if you ask them to do more than they're capable of doing. So,
Thanks.
thank you.
All right, next agenda item is discussion and appropriate action on approving a contract for the purchase of a Jack payment kiosk.
Hey.
Looks like you set that up.
So this has come to you before. Again, there's a couple of advantages. There's a couple of sites that have been suggested. One is, we talked about putting it here at City Hall, maybe putting it out front. One of the issues with putting it anywhere out front is the fact this is a historic building, and we don't want to mar the look and image that this building conveys when you drive by it. There's also the logistical challenges getting power and internet to wherever that location is. I know that Mayor Lee mentioned that we do have this drop box. We had 15 at last count, but it might have been more. Payments go missing. Now, thankfully, none of the checks were cashed. I think it's just kids breaking into that box. We might be able to put a stronger lock on it, but right now we've discontinued use of the drop box that's out there because it's people are tampering with it and taking payments, and it's resulting in late payments and frustrated people and that kind of thing. So this would offer more security. So there's two locations in your packet. One would be City Hall. At City Hall, we see two options. One would be to build a new building, small building that would look a little bit like the bathroom buildings, clad in stone. That cost is around $70,000. The other would be to remodel this storage building that's right behind us and make a pull. So that would be a drive-through option. This one would be a pull-up option. So the idea is they come up, they pull in, and they use the ATM-like machine, and then they drive off. And then the other option is a library. So I brought these forward in part because the mayor wanted us to look at a City Hall option. My preference is to do library or both, but not to do City Hall solely. Because, again, it goes back to what I was saying before, I really want to leverage the library and give people more and more reasons to go there, because we have some phenomenal resources at the library presently. We have staff there. We have the ability to cross-train and do other things. I would like to see us utilize them more. The other advantage to doing the option at the library would be that you're creating a drive-through for a book drop-off as well. The drop-off is already there, but you have to walk up. You walk up a hill or you walk around the building. There's not really a clear-cut path to get there. This would define that path and give people the ability to drop off books. And I know just having lived in other places where they had libraries that had that ability just to drive up and drop it off, customers love that. And so I see this as an improvement to the library. The total cost, Herb, was what?
$113,000.
Yeah, so that's the cost.
For the library solution.
Yeah, that's the cost of improving the awning, putting in a driveway, and buying the kiosk. And then ongoing cost is around $7,000. That's your maintenance cost to have that kiosk. And I think we heard from, and I shared this with you when we were talking to the AdComp folks who own this. It's a lot less expensive than having a person. They have 24-hour service. If someone has an issue, you call that number. They'll help you with the bill payment portion. It'll be able to process not just your utility bills, but one of the things I want to branch into is permit processing. But right now, it's just bill payments and court fines and fees. So we'll be able to do both. It'll have a driver license reader. It'll have a barcode reader. It'll have a signature pad, and it'll be able to dispense money, change, so you can actually put cash or check into this machine. There is a learning curve, especially for people who have challenges, but the learning curve is about the same as an ATM. So if you can use an ATM, you can use this machine. Again, I'm not trying to pick on Mayor Lee by any stretch, but just because he did mention some specific items, I'm responding to those. One of those was the fact that we don't have people clamoring for that, and they have all these options, and that's absolutely true. But I'm going back to what I earlier stated. It's not because people are clamoring for something like this. It's because I am clamoring for it. I need to free up people's time. We have paid positions now that I can utilize better if they weren't interrupted constantly with having to deal with payments and that kind of walk-up requests. I would like to repurpose these folks in City Hall and utility billing so that we can get more done. Because what's going to happen is you're going to add 2,500 bill payers in the next 3 to 5 years. I don't want to add 2 or 3 more people because of that. I'd like us to be able to grow into that, and one way to do that is to give them this kiosk. And I can foresee a time when we might want to have more than one here and one somewhere else in the new center of town, as it was referred to before. But So that's it. I don't know what else to answer on the kiosk. If y'all have other questions, there's certainly a lot more information to go through. Sheena's smiling.
It's something that a lot of people don't think of. With the kiosk going in, if we say the library, where it's going into, what kind of fire upgrades are we going to have to do for that area inside the building? Because any new construction by federal and state law has to be updated.
Only if it's more than
50%.
50%.
Okay, I'm just throwing that out there, that way we don't get, surprised by anything.
Yeah, that
So-
building is probably, what would it cost?
'Cause-
To rebuild is 1.5 million,
But
something like that?
you don't have to do the whole building.
Okay, so just the area where it's gonna be? Because I see that they have electrical and everything like that, so I just,
So if we do the library expansion to the west, as you suggested.
we'll have to upgrade, yeah, we'll
Might
have to
start
upgrade the
pushing
fire
that.
system.
Right.
But even that probably wouldn't, because depending on, if that costs, you'd have to
We've got
get,
like 4,000 square feet there, I think.
yeah, it depends on what you value that at, but I would say if you had to build the library today, over 1.5, probably.
Okay, I'm
So-
just throwing that out there
Yeah.
because,
Yeah, no, I appreciate you bringing it up.
No, I think that the one issue that we might have is making sure that for the drive-through, I like the idea of the drive-through, but we need to make sure that it fits with the buffer yard, or the buffer zone ordinance, the current buffer zone ordinance. I think that might be pushing it a little bit.
15 feet off the street. And I think you might have room there. But that's something to measure, yeah.
Well, so the existing awning, are you talking about when we have to extend the awning? Because the awning's not changing much.
No, just making sure that what we're doing is following the codes that we're.
You're a terrible person. Why'd you bring
On the
that up?
driveway that I would suggest, I think Mr. Lee made a very good suggestion. One of the ways we have to think about the future is maybe extending the size of the library and extending it to the west. That means moving the parking to the back. So my suggestion is, when you do this driveway, keep that in mind and design the driveway in such a way that if we ever do something and have to move the parking to the back, we don't have to undo everything you did.
Yeah, I will say that this project will have a challenge, and that is that it's on a hill. It's on the side of a hill. So you're going to have the same issue in the future if you were to build a parking lot in the back. But that said, when you look at the orientation of that pull-through and how it's designed to be, I can't imagine that present an issue. You're going to have the same issue of getting down that hill.
I think your idea that in the future, we're going to need to do something or add people. This is a good alternative to that, and it'll give us enough time to figure out how to integrate this into our operations. I support the library location as opposed to over here for all the reasons that you suggested. It's expensive, but it's a good investment, I think.
I just want to say I am so incredibly irked that I had the idea first, and Hondo already has theirs put in.
I was going to ask you if you could talk to them and see how, that would probably help to see, because I know they just installed it was in the paper, and see how people or the citizens are using that.
You act like I haven't done this before, sir.
I didn't say.
I don't care how Hondo's done it. I've done it before. I know how these work.
By the way, with your drop off to the street, just lower the grade out there.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't have to be existing grade, just lower your grade.
Yeah, 'cause there's a drainage right
Make it down to street level.
Hmm?
Just move it down to street level.
Yeah, just move it.
Move the library down to street level?
No.
The drive and the kiosk and all that stuff, it doesn't have to be at the.
No, well, if you want a book drop, though, and if I want, so I don't want to do what they did, for one. Hondo put it outside, out in the elements, and that kind of thing. I don't want a freestanding one. Even if everything we've looked at, it's in a wall, in a little bit more secure and substantial surface.
Yeah.
I hope they don't have any problems. I'm not wishing them any ill will, but, as I say, I have had experience with this. This will be my third, if we get to do it here. I prefer to put them inside of a building or where they can be monitored. So there will be a camera on this. There'll be multiple cameras on it, actually, because it's basically an ATM, and I don't want to have it subject to someone putting a chain around it and yanking it out. I want to make it as difficult as possible for someone to walk off of it. The other thing is, keep in mind, specific to the library, I really do believe that almost as advantageous as the kiosk itself is the ability to drop off books. I think people believe it, that may sound like a minor thing, but someone pulling up in the rain and being able to drop off books, or a mother with young kids, being able to not have to get out of the car and just drop off books, it's a big,
Yeah.
I think people are really going to like that. So
It is.
I'm hoping that this will provide that. So I hear what you're saying, but that would kind of negate the book drop-off aspect.
And then the traffic then, for the driver to be able to do it, would come from the street, not the 90 side to go pull in, they would come in this way.
Yeah.
No, they're going to come, so the angle of the library,
No, she's saying that
No.
they would travel to the rear of the library, turn around.
And then
come
turn
back.
and do the
yeah,
drive
they
up.
potentially could.
Well,
Right,
because
but
the
if you're
kiosk
coming
is
off
gonna-
that 90 drive,
Yeah,
you can, I mean, there is that triangle. You
Right.
can come in off of that. The entrance to the library will
I
be right
know,
there, so
yeah.
you'll be able to turn in
Go around
off of 90.
all the way
Okay.
around the library.
If you're coming from the south,
yeah,
you'll come up that road, and
Yeah.
you'll basically be yielding to any traffic
Yeah.
that's, I'm sorry, if you're coming from the north, you'll be yielding to any traffic to the south. A visual would help with this, but.
I know. I see it all the time at the
Okay.
store, so,
She looks out the window and sees it. Wait, you don't have a window on that side. Okay,
now when I get out of my vehicle, I'll get in my vehicle.
all right.
Yes, I do.
You want to make a motion?
For what? We're still talking about the,
This is the kiosk.
Yep, the kiosk.
oh, this
And the
is,
mayor's
Yeah,
asked
this
for a
is
motion.
discuss and appropriate action on approving a contract for the purchase of a Jack payment kiosk.
I move we approve the proposed contract for the purchase of a Jack payment kiosk.
And which option?
To be at the library, or?
At the library.
Okay. Do I have a
Thank you.
second?
I'll second.
All right. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Prayers do get answered.
All right. Next item is discussion and appropriate action on a possible city and Chamber of Commerce partnership. I do want to introduce this a little bit, and then I'm going to have Scott talk about it. We were at the Chamber of Commerce luncheon today, a little bit late, sorry. But this is something that we talked about with the Chamber of Commerce. The city is looking at ways that we can partner with the Chamber of Commerce. It's really, I feel like it's very important, and I think that this is the feeling of the council as well. Please correct me if I'm wrong, that we support the businesses, which supports the citizens, because they help fund things, and they're an integral part of the city that we live in. And so we're trying to find ways that we can lock arms together, collaborate together, and bring shared resources. We have some resources that they don't necessarily have. We have some common interests that we have the ability to partner up on, and so we've been looking at how can we do that, and an opportunity came up that Scott wanted to, that we've been pursuing with this. So with that, let me let you take
Take
it
it
from
away,
here.
Scott. All right.
Yeah.
Trying to remember, was it a Johnny Carson line? Take it away. So yes, this really is a moment of, it's an opportune moment. The Chamber was in the process of looking for an executive director. They've had turnover in that position of late. I think they did have someone in there for a while, for several years, and then when they turned over, don't know what happened, but we've had a couple of turnovers since. And so one of the issues is it's a part-time job, and it's a fairly low-paying part-time job, so it makes it difficult to recruit folks. That said, they do have a very good candidate, I think, and it looks like they're going to pursue efforts for that candidate, and if Aaron wants to speak to that later, he's here as the chamber president and can speak to that. But at the same time, they were looking for that. We saw, the mayor and I talked about, well, what if we worked some type of contract out with the chamber for provision of services where we could have a full-time person, so we put in some money, they put in some money, and we provide benefits. We get hopefully a higher quality candidate that's able to do more, because it's a full-time position. They can keep them, do all the things they need to do for the chamber for half their week, if you will, or for 1 week, and then the next week it'll be all about the city, and they'll work on city-related issues. Now, admittedly, this is not something that we had budgeted or we planned to do immediately, so it wasn't really high on my radar in that respect, in part because, again, I've talked about the limitation on our funds. We've made a commitment on our property tax side to keep our property tax where it's at for the next 3 years. And I've been very upfront about what that's going to do for the general fund side, that we're, on the general fund side especially, we're going to be very hamstrung on positions, because personnel is 85% of our cost. That said, we had another opportunity, and that's in the form of Michael Blair, who's actually here tonight as well, yes, in the desk in the back, who had worked for Congressman Tony Gonzalez's office. And during his tenure with Tony Gonzalez, he had brought up the fact that he really wanted to do something like this in the future. He wasn't looking at leaving immediately or that kind of thing, but he was looking at doing this eventually. And we've now been presented with an opportunity where he needs employment, and this opportunity with the chamber was up. So there's a little bit of kind of a moment in time opportunity in that respect. I think I did share his resume with you, Michael's resume. I think he's a very overqualified person for this position. But he has shared with me that he has a level of interest where he'd be willing to make a multi-year commitment to the city for this position. So even though some of the fear might be that he's overqualified and underpaid, he's willing to do this because, well, again, letting him speak in his own words if you want to talk to him about that. But that said, tonight would not be about hiring necessarily Michael Blair for this position. Tonight the discussion is, does it make sense for the city, one, to create the position? If we create the position, what would the responsibilities be? And I do have some loose terminology that, you know, as far as job description, I've kind of started putting together that. The concept would be that this person would be kind of quasi-economic development and quasi-tourism. So they would work with small businesses, there's a lot of synergy between the city and the chamber as far as our interests. As the mayor was just mentioning, what is in the best interest of the chamber is, in fact, in the best interest of the city. There are some challenges in that a chamber is member-driven, and we serve everyone. All tax-paying and rate-paying customers are our customers. So there would have to be some differentiation between the member benefits and the things that the city would be doing on behalf of businesses, right, from marketing and that standpoint. But I do believe this is worth discussing, and that's why it's been brought forward to the council to look at. There is some challenges. Again, historically, everybody wants to play in their own sandbox. This would be a new approach to doing things differently, working hand in hand, working collaboratively, which obviously creates a choke point at some point in the future. If ever the council is upset with the chamber or vice versa, then whose person is this and how much time are they spending, et cetera. Now, I did go and do a presentation to the chamber on Monday at their board meeting, and I did such a great job presenting to them that they decided that they would go ahead and hire the other person, right?
That is correct.
Yeah, and that's, again, totally okay. That's, I think the chamber had a great candidate, and I would be hard pressed to make a different decision if I were in their shoes. But that does not negate this opportunity in some respects. I think the city can justify a position to do tourism and economic development. We just propped up a CVB. We haven't filled the board yet. We just propped up an EDC. We do have EMC or Ernie and his folks helping us look for grants, and they're helping us with the EDC. But I think there's plenty to do, as I've already kind of alluded to. The question is this something the council is interested in pursuing? And from a funding strategy, are you willing to pay out of fund balance to pay this position while we let sales tax and hotel taxes catch up? And we do know, you all know, that there's a potential for future hotels. You know, I told the chamber, when I have 5 or 6 developments, I know that those developments aren't necessarily all going to pan out. However, they are a very strong indicator that there will be development of that magnitude within a short period of time, within 3 to 5 years. So, for instance, we have a number of housing and commercial developments that we're all talking about right now. All of those probably won't pan out. They might, but probably won't. But almost assuredly, the properties that are being discussed and the type of development will, whether there or somewhere else. It's a really strong indicator. So I feel very confident that we're going to have a need, and this would be a great, be a great resource for the city to have. But again, it's something that kind of came up out of the blue in some respects.
Let me just do a couple of points. One, this does not have to be a very specific agreement with the chamber. It doesn't have to be a shared resource between the chamber. Two, the position that we're looking at, it's not a great best practice. It is not a best practice to fund a position out of fund balance. But if you're doing it as an investment, because you have the fund balance to work with, And the idea of this position is to generate money that would then pay for that position and additional positions. It's really looking at this. This is an opportunity to make an investment into this concept, is looking at how do we bring on somebody that not just pays for themselves, but pays for additional roads, additional cops, additional whatever we need in helping do that economic development. And then either direct partnership with the chamber with an agreement, or an understanding and coordination with them. So it doesn't have to be that locked in legal agreement. It can just be a cooperation. However we set it up, I think that the end goal is the same. Help bring revenue into Castro. So I'll leave it there.
Again, Aaron Padilla, the chamber president, is here, and then Michael Blair, who's the person who submitted his resume, is here. So if y'all want to talk to either one of them, they can answer questions as well.
Well, one question, because I didn't understand this back and forth question that you and Aaron had. Did you all hire Michael or offer him a job, or are you all doing somebody else?
I'll speak to that. So just to give a little bit more background information, when this whole conversation started, we had already started a background check with an applicant, and then it was, well, let's relook at this. We'd had conversations about it, so we definitely wanted to explore it because like everybody's mentioned here today, that partnership is vital to continue growing this community and the challenges and things that we have ahead. And I think we're moving in the right direction. In this particular case, I think we kind of started this process, and I think it was a little bit of a timing issue, honestly. I think had that conversation come a week before, it would have given us a little bit more time to further the interview committee, I think, had a total of 4 or 5 people, and Joan Tyner and myself met with Michael. I believe that was last week sometime. So it wasn't really a normal, but we wanted to do it just to see what things were going to look like. It wasn't our normal process, but yes. So at this point, she's passed the background check, and we felt like at that point we had to offer her the position.
Okay.
And so that is what we did.
So you're not hiring Michael, so this whole joint deal that we're talking about, that's really is...
It's not that it's moot, because I think there's a couple of things. Number one, the first step is to create a position for the city. Like, do we want to create this position? The next step is, obviously, how are we going to fund that position, and what are the duties and responsibilities? Regardless of whether or not there's a formal agreement with the chamber to help fund the position, we want that person to be locking arms with the chamber, with the CADC, with Go Medina, and looking to prop up their efforts every way that we can. So that person would help do that regardless, in the absence of an agreement, right? The other option is, if the city creates a position and then we decide, and we post it, and we get applicants, and we review applicants, and we have a couple of choices. We choose an applicant that may or may not be Mr. Blair, right, to fill that position and have it be a sole employee of the city. We could also look at, because I think one of the things that the candidate the chamber chose, they expressed an interest in a full-time position. So we can also look at what they bring to the table, and would that be something, then we can, again, revisit the idea for a partnership. Because at that point, I have a funded position, and I have the ability to then have the conversation at your direction with the chamber about, well, okay, we have this funded position, you've already hired this person, is there an opportunity for some type of contract between those two, right? I think there's a lot of different ways this to go, and again, I can see the benefit of having a person do this.
I guess to help you, my thoughts is I think I would, knowing where we're going, knowing what we need to do, knowing what we need, we've always been talking about, and 10 years ago, we had the tourism person was also the part-time airport person. We just found people to do this. I think to hire Michael, a person like him, I like his resume, I know him. I think his contacts would be, like you say, he's really overqualified for us, but to get somebody with that experience in here, I would be in favor of doing that, knowing that we do have some fund balance to pay for this for the next couple of years. And I do think everything's going to catch up to benefit, because I think we always talked about tourism, convention, but I really think we can generate revenue for the businesses in this city by really pushing that. And I think, in my mind, we need to be the one directing that, and therefore to have an employee do that, I'm all in favor of that, personally.
And the other thing, we looked at the partnership with the chamber just because there's some overlapping things. And so if we brought somebody on that just helps the chamber, like if you think about some of the joint events that we're doing, I think about Eclipse 2024. That is a huge thing that we are totally unprepared for. That could be a huge generator. That one event could pay for this position for multiple years if we do it correctly. And so I do think that the time is now to look at something like this. And to Michael's credit, and I'll speak specifically to Michael, I don't believe in creating a position specifically for an individual person. But Michael, once again, got our blood flowing, our brain working, and he's like, hey, what about doing this? Just like he's done with so many other things, just like helping us get the grant for the airport, just like he helped out Petunia's, what's that? Petunia's Rescue. You helped them get their 501c3. Thank you, by the way. She said thank you for doing that. So he's getting us really thinking more seriously about this. We've been talking about it for a while, but it is an opportune time to take a look at this and to see, does this make sense? And the intent of this is specifically to have a position that creates more positions, more payment for positions, that makes more than what we're paying them. It is an investment, and that is it. Sorry, I won't say that again. I can't say that enough.
Now, here, I have to throw this out here and ask the question. Legally, if we create this position by state law or federal law, do we have to advertise the job?
We should.
By our ordinances, yes, we do.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would recommend you do that anyway. I mean,
Right.
it's just a smart thing to do.
Right, okay. Now, who would this position fall under? Because they won't be a whole nother department on their own. Would they tie in with the finance department since it has to do with economic development, or with Brianna?
Well, whether or not they have the title of director, I might put them, I'd either put them under myself, frankly, or I'd put them under Devin potentially, because some of the things that are, some of the things that are being done right now for events planning, that's one of where my biggest concern is. A lot of that has to do with tourism. Now, there are other items that Deborah has lovingly and graciously taken on, she was handed with the Steinbach House, that also could fall under this purview. But I will tell you, I'm not as worried about that, because I've got a great team, and they don't really care who reports to who. We're all working this together. We all, yeah. So, but
Well, just where that person's sitting, I mean, economic development, with tourism and stuff like that.
Well, previously, the city, in probably 14, 15, we had a gentleman that was down, he was Parks manager, director, but he also did events. It was a special events, and that was it fell under that. Then in, I think it was 16, 17, when we had a economic development director.
Right.
And it was under community development. That person, she was the economic development director and was over, I guess, some of this stuff, I don't know. But, and the tourism fell under that. And then, of course, after that's when we had the part-time, it kind of got split up. That department got taken away. That position was taken out of the budget. And so that's when you kind of did the part-time airport and tourism.
Yeah, see, working with Brianna makes sense, because they're going to have to apply for permits and everything for it. But I'm just asking this
But that fell under the
question.
community development umbrella originally.
Okay.
I don't know what it'll do now.
That's really for Scott to figure out. I guess the big question you're asking is, how much are we in favor of funding this?
yeah, because again, for me, it kind of came out of the blue. I think it's a good idea, but it's kind of again, Office of Harebrained Ideas. I mean, these are, I just use an opportunity. I haven't had any discussion with you all. This is our opportunity to have that discussion. It isn't our last opportunity in that respect, if you need more time to think about it, but it is, yes, timely.
Councilman Dyer?
Yeah. This distresses me that we're even having this discussion tonight. It's not in the budget. There's a lot of other things that we need to do. I keep hearing the word fund balance, fund balance, fund balance, and I'm hearing it too much. And here's what I would suggest. First of all, I think the idea of the city and the chamber partnering is a great idea. But I'd like to see you put together a plan. And you bring it first to our lawyer and make sure that we can do what you think we should do. And if the lawyer says, yeah, this is okay, no problem, you bring it to the council, let us discuss it with you, and see if we want to approve it and accept it. Then we have a plan. If the action that you've already taken precludes that, then let's talk about creating a job description with requirements, organizational changes, wherever you want to put this person, and you bring it to the city council as a proposal, and we, first of all, figure out how we're going to pay for it, where we're going to get the money, what else are we not going to do that we were going to do. I know I keep hearing, we can't afford to do this, we can't afford to do that, but we keep throwing things out, and we keep saying, yes, let's go do them. So I'd like to really concentrate on the budget aspects. And lastly, I recommend we stop talking about names until we decide whether we're going to create a position, because I think we're going to have to compete it.
Yeah,
and I don't want to inadvertently do something that prejudices a well-qualified candidate, obviously.
Right.
I'm all in favor of, if the council approves it and we proceed, then we'll look at the candidates. But this is not the time to do it, in my opinion. Thank you.
Agreed to that point. And I think it's a little bit non-standard the way that this was approached, but I do like the idea of having these open conversations and talking about why are we here, why are we looking at this right now, does it actually make sense? I think that I believe that we should look at everything and we should do a few things. And so this, I think, the intent was to bring it up and say, do you believe that this is a good approach? Do you feel like this is something that could be beneficial to the city, working with the chamber and whatever that looks like? And if so, then let's have staff go back and we'll work on putting together what the actual job description would be, what the expectations would be, what the checks and balances would be, how the reporting structure works, and really put it together as a full plan. And it sounds like there's appetite to do that.
Well, I just want to mention two things. One, I heard what you were saying, but I also want to say that a lot of times we have this opportunity for discussion, and then we go back and we put together the plan. So there needs to be some discussion so we don't chase a bunch of. I just don't have the time or energy to chase all the crazy ideas that have in my head. That's why I do the reports, and I let you, and I get some feedback, and I know what to kill and strangle and what to keep going. But that said, this specific issue, like I said, it was very timely. We met with the chamber last Friday. And they said, well, geez, I think might have reached out to you last Wednesday. And I said, well, geez, we have this candidate, and they really wanted a decision, or maybe it was Monday. They wanted a decision like that week.
I had to give her a decision by yesterday afternoon, yes, because she had another offer from another organization.
So they were under the gun, and they hadn't had a chance to talk to their board about it. Their board meeting was Monday. Our meeting was tonight. We had to post it Friday. So it was a hurry up and put it on the agenda just so we could have the conversation. But I agree with just about everything you said, Herb. This needs to be thought out. But I do think there's an opportunity, and it wasn't something that was budgeted, and but it is something that if the issue, the challenge I'll put before council is, you should only think about doing this if you're ready to really commit to doing economic development and tourism. And I think that there's that commitment there, because you just propped up an EDC and you propped up a CVB. And doing those two things without giving resources to your city to manage and drive that is ill-fated, right? And I honestly don't have the time to devote that really needs to be devoted to just those two activities, as is evidenced by that list of 81 things that I gave you. So I would be immensely grateful if this were a position you wanted to fill. But I also understand the challenges that we're facing under the general fund, and I don't take those lightly. And I do not like paying out of fund balance. But the fact of the matter is we have $3 million in fund balance. So we have lots and lots of money, and we can use it sparingly and cautiously for purposes that you think are important enough to do that. And certainly, usually I recommend one-time capital expenditures and that kind of thing. Like I said, I'm perfectly, I feel very comfortable with that kind of thing. But this is a little bit of a one-off, but I think with good reason. Because we are, I think, in a period of growth and a period of time for the city that this really could, this is a position that could really do a lot of great things for the city.
And also, to be clear, we're not looking at spending the fund balance. We're looking at investing it. Where do we invest it? And where's the best bang for our buck? And part of the investment is that there's actually a return on this. And I've got to say one other thing. I really appreciate the fact that the chamber did look at it. I totally respect the decision that you made, and to Scott's point, I probably would have made the same
They
decision.
did not laugh me out of the room, and I appreciate that. And they were very respectful and listened, and thought, this is kind of crazy, but I admitted to that. I told them that, I didn't use the term harebrained, but I said, who are these crazy people?
Well, and I just want to make sure that that's clear too, is that based on all those things going on, I want to make it clear to the city that, or, I mean, I hope that that continues, that we still get to keep that partnership and work together, because I think it is crucial for the community. And I think whoever you put in that position, or what, you know, that it's going to be truly, you're going to see the ROI in a few years with everything going on and growth. And then you throw them dealing with some of these other organizations, Go Medina, economic development. I mean, you're definite. I truly can see where that's going to be beneficial. The last thing I wanted to mention was just that the board and everybody, like I said, everybody was in agreement to move forward. We just felt like we didn't have enough details on the city partnership. And truly, I think the partnership was more to help us out, because our sources are limited as far as what we can pay and all those things. So if it worked out that way, good, but I think you're on the right track to keep moving forward with it. So that's all I have.
I feel like if we do this, then we'll continue that partnership in whatever form it takes, and making sure that we are supporting our businesses through the chamber. For sure.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. All right. So we're clear on direction?
No. If you give me a little bit. Yeah, I think so, but it would be helpful if y'all could.
So to clarify, I think what we're saying is, let's put together a job description, expectations, and our
Funding mechanism.
Funding mechanism, what our expectations would be, short-term, mid-term, long-term, out of this position, and how do we get it out of fund balance into a fully funded position? Is that
A self-funded position.
a self-funded, fully funded,
One that has-
overfunded?
One that has return on investment.
Right, that helps us fund other things. Right. Is that fairly accurate? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I think one thing you said, you know, we've created these things, and without, and we're stressing you out as it is now, and Deborah, and so really to staff up these positions that we, you know, the economic development and so forth, I think that goes into this plan that you need to come back and present to us.
And it's the right time, as we're starting to hit this explosive growth, getting prepared for it. I think this is a part of it, is working with those boards. Okay.
Well, and part of this explosive growth is to bring the right businesses to Castroville.
Mm-hmm.
And that is one of the things that we'll have to do through this position.
A variety of businesses.
Right.
Well, and I can speak to, like, Stephanie Banks over at the Go Medina. The amount of activity that she's done, the amount of fruit that's come out of that. If you read some of the Go Medina notes, she was given a raise because she's been doing such a great job, and because she's bringing stuff in. And she's coordinating between the cities. The same way that Go Medina is coordinating with the cities, we want to be coordinating with the chamber and with the businesses. And it becomes this amazing synergy, and they're bringing money into Medina County. And people are seeing the results out of that. So I think
to levy a special assessment against homeowners